Thanks everyone for joining and staying till our session. We were very excited to talk about network optimization. So we are going to get into really practical examples of how you can identify optimization opportunities in networking domain and which tools you can use. And also together with improvement of cost, you can also improve resilience. My name is Yuri Prichodko. I'm Principal Technical Account Manager and also one of the leaders of Cloud Intelligence Dashboards project in AWS. Judith?
Thanks, Yuri. Hi, everyone. Sorry, my name is Yuri Slaner. I am a Senior Technical Account Manager, also part of CID Group and leading CFM tips. Let's start.
All right, let's start. So first, I would like us, when we talk about practical optimization or technical optimization of our workloads, let's first talk about the constraints or the challenges where we operate in. In the cloud, cost is operational metric. Yeah, we should understand that cost is decentralized. Every engineer can spin resources and trigger some costs, right? So every team can deploy a new application and trigger some cost increase. And so cost is decentralized, is distributed, and ownership of the cost usually is distributed across multiple teams. So it's challenge number one. Then cost is scalable. Cost can go up and down with the scale of your business. So it's actually good news that you can also, by optimizing the cost of your workloads, you can overall reduce your TCO and increase the business margins. And cost is also variable. So it means that you do not now have upfront investment into the data center. So your cost follows your usage patterns, and that's involves some challenges with planning, with forecasting, and how to manage this all at scale. So now let's talk about the opportunities. Uh, in the cloud, every architectural decision is a purchase decision. And if you look into if you make any change into different pillars of well-architected framework like performance, operational excellence, reliability, security, those changes most likely will be reflected in the cost. But the good news is that vice versa, if you have deep understanding in the cost insights and details of your workloads, you can actually identify plenty of optimization opportunities across all well-architected pillars. So because cost is decentralized, scalable, and variable metric, it becomes non-functional requirement for our workloads together with sustainability. So even more, cost is follows sustainability. Sustainability follows the cost, and cost acts a proxy overall to our usage and as well to our sustainability. So how get into this technical deep dive optimizations, which we are going to cover today? First of all, it's very important to treat any optimizations which you do not as a project, but as continuous process. And in FinOps, uh, we actually define the FinOps phases. We start with great visibility for all stakeholders which involved in the process. It's all about collaboration, right? And FinOps is all about collaboration between different stakeholders. So great visibility and great tooling available for everyone is step number one. And this tooling should actually provide some actionable insights and kind of guide your engineering teams, your product owners, the owners of resources into what they can optimize. Yeah, what could be improved in the workloads. And of course, the next step would be is to act on these optimization insights and optimization opportunities, and actually implementing these optimizations by different engineering teams. And once you optimize something, I would encourage you to actually think about if team A managed to do it, managed to optimize it, can it be scaled to my entire organization? Can we maybe learn from this and set a best practice for our organization? Can we put it into our maybe release readiness playbooks or architectural blueprints, like if we migrated from GP2 EBS volumes to GP3 volumes and reduce the cost of storage, why don't we set the organizational best practice to use GP3 as default, right? So idea is that once you optimize something, always think about bringing this into your operational runbooks, into your operations. If you use infrastructure as a code, make sure that your infrastructure as a code templates updated according to your best practices. And then you go to the next level. You don't stop on this. You go to the next circle. You use inform phase, or you use this tooling for visibility to actually now report the savings, understand how much you managed to save by optimizations, to celebrate the success and recognize the champions, and find more advanced optimization opportunities and go again to optimization. So it's never ending story, but at the same time, if you work on this continuous improvement and continuous optimizations, that's where you can actually build this habit within the engineering teams, within your solution architects, of focusing on building not only for reliability, not only for security, but also for cost as well. And in this session, we are going to talk about two tools which you can use for these technical optimizations. First is Cloud Intelligence Dashboards. And this tool actually will help you with visibility part. It will guide you to identify these optimization opportunities, and then to see the impact of your optimizations once you improve something. And the second tool is CFM tips. So it's Cloud Financial Management tips, which is a collection of playbooks and ideas what you can actually improve in your workloads. It's broken down by different domains, and you can actually use it as a framework or as a library of good patterns, what you can do and what ideas for optimizations you can use. So Judith, why don't you tell us more about these tools and cover what is under the hood?
Thanks, Yuri. Okay, so we have many stakeholders in the organization, and every stakeholder has its own questions and its own needs for cost visibility. So first we have the product owners that want to understand cost per feature in order to build the roadmap. And the engineering lead want to understand the cost per environment or cost per team to understand how they are using the different infrastructure. And the FinOps practitioner at the end wants to improve the cost efficiency. And the finance team would like to get consolidated view of the different payers in the organization. And at the end, the executives wants to get the spend per revenue. So we see we have different questions from different stakeholders, and all these stakeholders need to collaborate together. And some of those stakeholders don't even have access to the AWS console or to different tools. And some of them wants to bring their own data sources. For example, they want to bring business unit information and customize the information that they have. So eventually, with the Cloud Intelligent Dashboards, we giving those stakeholders the opportunity to get answers according to the questions that they have. So every stakeholder can get their own information according to their needs. And if we take a deeper look under Cloud Intelligent Dashboards, so all the services that we talked about, like Cost Explorer and Cost and Usage Report and budgets, all these tools at the end transfer into data sources. And those data sources are going into a big data lake, which is based on Amazon S3 on a specific bucket. And we're using Amazon Athena in order to query this bucket and get the relevant information. And the dashboards are deployed on Amazon QuickSight, which is a BI tool for AWS. So you need to deploy CloudFormation templates, and then you get out of the box dashboards that can answer different questions. And at the end, we have the decision makers, the stakeholders, and every stakeholder will get the information they need. And this will bring the data closer to the decision makers. And now let's talk about CFM technical implementation playbooks or CFM tips. And we built the CFM tips in order to create one place that will hold all the information regarding cost optimization. And we used our AWS expert from working with a lot of customers to build this knowledge. And the CFM tips is based on 4 pillars. The first pillar is cultural change, because we understand that before you go into cost optimization, you need to change the culture inside the organization. You need to connect finance team and engineering. You need to set up KPIs. So you need to start with that. And then we go into the foundations pillar, where we focus on the basic things you need to define before you start doing cost optimization. So you need to define budgets and cost anomaly monitors in order to prevent cost shocks. So you will monitor your usage in the account. You will start talking about tagging strategy in order to get deeper visibility into your resources. And after that, we will go into the visualizations pillar, which is talking about the different AWS tools that we have for cost visibility. For example, Cost Explorer and the Cloud Intelligent dashboards. And at the end, the last pillar is the service cost optimization playbooks. And today we are covering more than 40 services. And the idea of the playbook is every playbook covers a specific AWS service. And we always start with how to identify specific cost and usage. For example, on RDS, how to identify your RDS usage, what is a storage cost, what is a compute cost, the backup. So understand that first, then go into more deeper phases like identify waste, like idle instances, and then optimize storage, optimize your backup, and go into more deeper topics. So now let's talk about networking cost efficiency.
All right, so let's optimize. So network cost and usage is usually understanding data transfer cost and usage is usually challenging. And overall, we see across the customers that, to be able to identify what type of data transfer you have, how much does it cost, you need to know all the different usage types if you used Cost Explorer. So, but at the same time, it's data transfer is usually the cost which customers need not to take into account when plan their workloads. And that's important to have a very good visibility and understanding your data transfer cost. So actually the challenge number one, which we're going to solve, is how can we understand what data transfer types we are paying for and which resources are involved in this. So Judith, can you dive deeper into this?
Sure. So tip number one is the first step for data transfer cost and usage is you need to understand your data transfer types. And then you can go and understand with the CUDOS dashboard how to get that visibility. So first, let's talk about how to understand the data transfer type. So I'm showing here CFM tips. So you can see we are on data transfer playbook. And the first thing you need to understand that you have data transfer to the internet, you have data transfer between AWS region, Inter-AZ, and for CloudFront. So you can go into this guide and learn about which types of data transfer and understand them better. But then you can go into CUDOS and get the visibility into your organization data transfer. So I'm showing here the CUDOS dashboard. This is a demo link. We can share it also on the chat. And the CUDOS dashboard have many different domains and services that it covers, but we will focus on the data transfer tab for today. So when you go inside data transfer tab, you will see here on the left side all the different types that you are able to filter and dive deep into those specific types. And if you will drill down, you can see data transfer cost by account, by different accounts that we have in this specific organization. And on the right side, you can see data transfer cost per type. So we have data transfer to internet and region to region. But you can also dive deep into a specific type. So for example, I want to dive deep into inter-AZ traffic. So I will click on that, and then all the visuals will be updated according to this selection. And when I scroll down, then for example, this next visual that shows data transfer per service helps you understand that inter-AZ traffic is generated by EC2 usage. So you can understand that and you can see the amount per day. And if we drill a little more down, then you can understand the data transfer operation per account. So you can see that for this specific account, we have inter-AZ in and inter-AZ out. So you can understand the breakdown. And you can also understand that by gigabytes, how much data transfer you had for that specific usage. And on top of that, you can identify the specific services that generated this data transfer. So we can see here the top 15 resources that generated this data transfer for inter-AZ. So this is how you can understand your data transfer cost and usage inside your organization.
All right, that's great. So in a matter of couple of clicks, we managed to identify the top data transfer generators. All right, so challenge number 2. For many networking resources, such as NAT gateways, VPC endpoints, elastic load balancers, and others, also VPN connections, we have hourly charges and also data transfer related charges. And hourly charges there, regardless if you use this resource, if you have data transfers through it or not. And it's quite often happens among the customers when you provision something and it just stay like for maybe for some testing, for some development, and it just stays there, and no one deleted it, and it's not significant cost per resource, but when it stacks up at entire organization, it actually can trigger some significant costs at scale. So identifying these idle resources and eliminating them could improve your, first of all, sustainability posture, but also significantly reduce the cost of all the network resources. So as you can see on this architecture diagram, so there could be resources which deployed, but nothing is using them. No resources are using them. So how would we solve this challenge, Judith, and what you would recommend to do?
So tip number 2 will be you need to identify your idle NAT gateways. And in CFM tips, we have a guide that explains how you can identify it. We are using, of course, the CUDOS dashboard to identify it. So let's go and see how it looks inside the CUDOS dashboard. And we are still in the data transfer tab. I just want to relate where we're at. And in the data transfer tab, I will scroll down and we will have this section, network resource utilization summary. And here we can select the specific product that we want to understand. And for example, I will choose the VPC. And here you can understand, if I scroll down, you can see a list on this visual. You can see a list of all the idle resources that didn't had any traffic for the last 30 days. So at the end, those are resources that this organization is not using. And if they don't have a plan to use it, it's a good thing to remove them, because you can see that this cost is summing up, and in big organization in scale, this could be significant. Another visual here that also can be interesting is this one on the right side. So this one shows resources with low traffic. So maybe you are using those resources, but you don't transfer a lot of traffic through them. So maybe you should think about if those resources are needed, maybe you can merge them with other resources. So this is also an opportunity to understand if this is needed.
Yeah, and the same you can do for you can switch, for example, between VPC endpoints. You can change to, for example, elastic load balancers as well in the dashboard. Yeah, switch there. And I think, Judith, you have InterAZ still selected. So okay, now it's good. Yeah. So and
Okay.
if you scroll down, you see also now idle ELBs. So you can actually, use this control to see the different types of idle resources, which is really great. All right. So we identified idle resources. We now working on optimizations then. Challenge number 3. Uh, in NAT gateways, you have an option to deploy NAT gateways uh, in every availability zone where you have workloads, or you also can have a NAT gateway in single availability zone and use this NAT gateway from other availability zones in their respective routing tables. So what happens with this setup is, first of all, is not great from resiliency standpoint because you have your single point of failure if in one availability zone. So like don't do that in production environments. But also what problem it causes here is that when your resources access internet through NAT gateway in different availability zone, it actually triggers inter-AZ data transfer. And again, depending on the scale, depending on your usage, this amount of inter-AZ could grow significantly and could be pretty significant. So by identifying this and optimizing the NAT gateway setup, what you can do is you can just place a NAT gateway in every availability zone. So Judith, you can switch to next one. Yeah, in every availability zone, and change your VPC routing tables to use this local NAT gateways. So what will happen is, first of all, you have more resilient setup, and you don't have inter-AZ data transfer anymore. So when you see a inter-AZ data transfer on NAT gateways, it's usually signal of anti-pattern, and uh, it means that you can possibly optimize something there. And Judith, please show us how to find it all in CUDOS.
Sure. So first thing, we have the guide that explain how to reduce this usage and how to be more resilient. And you can see the guide over here on CFM tips. So this is a guide that explains how to do that and how to use CUDOS dashboard for that. But now let's see it on live. Then I will choose NAT Gateway. I will let it load everything. And when I scroll down to the top 10 resources, I will expand the first one. And you can see here that we have a data transfer inter-AZ for this NAT gateway. So it's not significant, but it's a sign that we are using a NAT gateway from a different AZ, which is not, it's not the best practice. Like Yuri said, it's a NATI pattern and it can grow. So at the end, we recommend you to deploy NAT gateway in every AZ that your application is running and reduce this traffic.
Yeah, one important note here is that if you see that usage cost is like $31, so if you deploy NAT gateway in every availability zone, obviously you will be paying for NAT gateway in that availability zone hourly fees. So if it's like really $31, you only benefit which you will get is a resiliency improvement. But I saw customers who had tens of thousands of dollars inter-AZ data transfer on NAT gateways. So imagine simple change in routing tables and deployment of additional inter-AZ helps significantly to eliminate that unneeded transfer. So look for these opportunities for improvements in your organizations as well. All right, let's move on. And challenge number 4, that's the last challenge which we are going to cover, is it's also related to NAT gateways. And NAT gateway is probably one of the most most commonly used network resource. And at the same time, it's very common scenario where you have your instances, you have your workloads in private VPC, and you use NAT gateway to access resources in the internet. But at the same time, it's also very often scenario when customers have workloads from private VPC actually accessing also AWS services such as S3 buckets or DynamoDB tables. And what it means that for NAT gateway, you have data processed through NAT gateway charges. So traffic which passes NAT gateway, actually you charged, I think, 4 tenths of dollar for every gigabyte of traffic passed through NAT gateway. Well, at the same time, if you improve this setup and create a gateway endpoint in your VPC, you don't really need to send the traffic to your AWS resources, to your S3 buckets, to your DynamoDB, through the NAT gateway, through the internet. You can use this private connection. So it's basically a endpoint to the service in your private VPC, which you specify in routing tables. And again, your AWS resources are accessed directly without need to bypass through NAT gateways. So that would allow you to significantly reduce the amount of traffic that passes the NAT gateway and overall to reduce the cost. And the good news that again, there is a pretty easy way how you can identify those NAT gateways which actually could be or VPCs which could be improved with CFM tips and with CUDOS dashboard.
Yeah, so let's see tips number 4. So we have a guide that explain how you can identify a NAT gateway traffic cost, how you can see that you are sending traffic to AWS services, and also how you can see it on CUDOS. So I'm going back to the same visual that we saw before. And if we take a look on this specific component, this is the NAT gateway data processed. And we can see that we have here about 40 terabytes. But at the end, the traffic that goes to the internet or region to region is pretty small. So we see that we have this other component, and the other component is traffic that goes to AWS services. So this is like an insight that a lot of traffic is going into AWS services, and maybe you have here like S3 bucket that is going through the NAT gateway and not using a gateway endpoint.
Judith, can we actually see exactly to which services this traffic goes to
This one?
from here? Yeah, or we need to use additional some data sources, so it's just indication for us.
So it's just indication. In order to get a clear understanding, you need to use VPC flow logs.
Exactly. Yeah, but overall, you see this portion of NAT gateway data processed, 40 gigabytes, 40 terabytes of data in this case. Most likely this data goes to AWS services. And again, by understanding your usage patterns, you can reduce this amount of $2,000 to pretty much near to zero if you deploy VPC gateway endpoint. All right, I think we covered it. So, and to finish our presentation, to finish the story, I'd like to show you how good looks like. So here is example of this kind of optimizations implemented by one customer. So as you can see, they had significant amount of both inter-AZ data transfer on NAT gateway and also NAT gateway data processed. And by applying these relatively simple changes in network setup, first of all, they managed to improve resiliency and have multi-AZ NAT gateway deployment, but also significantly to reduce the costs. And check this out as well in your organizations. Deploy CUDOS dashboard, use CFM tips in your accounts and try to optimize. Networking is a great example how you can really go deep and find these low-hanging fruits of savings opportunities, but there are much more different domains. And you can use CFM tips to dive deeper into every single domain and find best practices how to optimize resources. With that, we would like to thank you for joining us today.